thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be making a quiche with a hash brown crust. I love this recipe because it's all superfoods, and today I'm going to be making a nettle quiche. I love stinging nettle because it's springtime and I suffer from allergies, and nettle I find to be the best thing to help me with my allergies, and the best way to eat it is fresh. If you are going to use it fresh though, it does have these stinging leaves to it, which will make you get a rash on your hands and stuff, which is actually good for you, but it's quite irritating. So if you are going to handle nettles, use gloves or just be mindful to only hold the bottom of the bowl. I understand that nettles are hard to come by, and you can use any green that you want. Any sort of kale, chard. You could put any meat in here that you wanted, just pre-cook it. You could cube up ham, sausage. I'm going to add this raw cheese to it, but I encourage you to add your favorite cheese. Whatever is your favorite thing is what you should put in your quiche. We are going to start by cooking down this nettle because I want it to cool before we add it to the egg mixture. So I'm going to take this over to the stove. I have this preset to a high heat. And I'm going to throw about half a stick of butter because I don't want my nettle to stick to the bottom of the pan. I'm going to use these tongs because I do not want to touch this nettle. But I'm going to stuff this saute pan with as much greenery as can fit. It will cook down so much, you'll be amazed. And then to start out, I'm going to put a lid on it, but I won't keep it there for long, just to get it initially wilted down. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to strain the nettle into this bowl so it can remove any excess liquid. And then also I'll leave it to cool because I won't want to add it to the eggs directly afterwards, or it will scramble the eggs. I want them to wait and bake inside of the oven. All right, I'm going to check on it. Once it's cooked down enough to stay down in the pan, I don't need the lid anymore because I want that liquid to evaporate. So I'm actually seeing that this stem is a bit too woody, so I'm going to cut it out. I love using scissors in the kitchen. It's such a wonderful tool to have. So whatever green you are choosing to do with this, you'll want to cook it down in this same manner. And certain greens are going to have a lot more water in it, like for example, spinach. You would have to maybe squeeze out your spinach to get all the moisture out. This is actually quite dry. And then once it is cooled, you have the option to keep it whole like this, or you can give it a rough chop. Or if I'm making it for kids, I would straight up puree it. And that way the green, is just sort of more of a color and less of a texture for them. Okay, I'm thinking this is about perfect. And so I'm going to put it in my strainer here. And I'm going to allow this to cool while I make my hash brown crust. All right, so we're going to start with a stick of butter and our hash brown potatoes. Now you can always hash your own browns, but that's a lot of work. And sometimes it's great just to buy the already hashed browns that are frozen. It's just important that you turn over and read the ingredients. The only ingredient in this is organic potatoes. You can often find them with seed oils and all of these seasonings and flavorings, which are not good for you. Anyway, I like this brand. And then one thing I like to do if you buy the frozen one is to break it up. Just throw it down a couple of times. And while it's still in the bag, make sure you've broken up all the huge clumps of it. And then once the butter is mostly melted, you can put your hash browns in. So what I want to do is season them instantly and also try to toss the butter evenly amongst every single shred. So you want a good bit of salt, evenly distributed. And then I'm going to take it and try to toss this so that the butter and the salt are evenly distributed on every little hash brown. All right. And then I'm going to put a lid on it for a little while. So I am putting a lid on this so that the moisture will sort of get up and evenly cook through all of the hash browns. And so this is just a temporary lidding, and then we'll take it off. All right, I'm going to check on these. So it's looking pretty good. Once it looks like they sort of turn translucent, and that's how you know they've sort of started to cook all the way through. So I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm going to give it a stir. So this is sort of like my last distribution of fat and salt. And now I'm going to try to make it evenly coat the bottom, because what I want is to form a crust. I want the browning. I want them to start to stick together and sort of create that crispiness. And then once it's sort of done that on one side, I'm going to do my best to sort of flip sections and brown it on the other side just a little bit. And then I'll put it into my little mold. All right, I'm going to check on this and see if it's starting to brown on the bottom. Yes. You definitely don't want to overcook it because it's still going to bake in the oven. All right, now once again, I'm flattening it evenly on the bottom. And then we will wait for that to brown. All right, well, this looks like the perfect amount of dark brown and light brown to go into the dish. Oh, this is so delicious. Everybody likes a hash brown crust. So you just want to make sure this is evenly in the bottom and slightly up the sides. But don't beat yourself up, and certainly don't smash it. Okay, and then we'll leave that to cool slightly while we make the inside of the quiche. So we're going to start with eggs. And how many eggs you use is how many will fit inside of your vessel. So I'm thinking maybe 8 eggs will fit in there. Always try to find pasture raised eggs if you can. Eggs that are not vegetarian fed, because chickens are not meant to be vegetarians. The very good dog who's all too happy to eat the eggshells. All right, and then we will want to salt this. Maybe one more pinch. Okay, and then I'll start to whip it up. All right. And now we get to pick our ingredients. I always like to add cheese to my quiche, but that is optional. You do not have to add cheese if you don't like it. And you can do a creamy cheese. You can do a ricotta. You can add a lot of cheese if you're into that, or just a little bit of cheese. I just encourage you to make what sounds delicious to you. And then we have our nettles. So I think I'm going to rough chop these a little bit. And I'm once again going to use my favorite kitchen tool, which is the scissors. So instead of getting out a cutting board and knife, just rough it up with your scissors here. All right. Dump that in there and then mix it up. So I'm just basically trying to get this evenly coated and distributed with the eggs. So you can see how if this nettle was steaming hot, this would just turn into a pile of scrambled eggs. And we don't want that to happen. So once everything is mixed in, we're just going to pour it into the crust. Hello, darling. All right. And then I'll sort of evenly press this around. Perfect. And now we're going to bake it, ideally in an oven preset to 375 degrees. The way that you know quiche is done is when it's puffed up even in the center. It will start to puff up, puff up, puff up on the edges. And once it's puffed up even in the center, that's when we'll know to take it out. In this case, it'll be about 25 to 30 minutes. And here it is. Nice and puffed up even here in the center and brown all the way around on the edges. You should definitely let this cool for just a minute before you cut into it to make sure that the eggs are fully cooked all the way through, but definitely serve hot. Thanks for watching.